Hey, all, it's Paul. Wanted to give a little context for this episode that's coming up here. So when I started this podcast, I always wanted to focus on the field and provide a platform for voices in the field. So if I were to ever get to know or come across somebody who's a field worker in construction who is doing advocacy work and really showing how to do this right, how to lead right, and how to take care of their crews in a new way, I wanted to give them a platform. So today, I'm going to be giving the mic over to Brian Finck, who's a good friend of mine, General Foreman at Mid-City Electric, as the first Focus on the Field episode. Now, something I want you guys to be aware of, 4 days after we recorded this episode, he went into the hospital with some pretty severe symptoms, and it actually turns out that he is diagnosed with cancer. So he is facing a battle against bile duct cancer, which is going to involve chemotherapy and immunotherapy. So I want you guys to both listen to our conversation in this podcast today and hear his voice and hear his story, because I believe that it can have massive impact on our industry when we highlight voices like his. But also, I'd love to be able to give you guys opportunity to support Brian and his family, as that they are now facing this new battle, this fight that they're going to go through with cancer. If you guys know me and my background, I'm a cancer survivor myself, and when I went through it, I received so much support from friends and family, and some of that was financial support. So I went ahead and set up a GoFundMe for Brian. I'm going to add the link to the YouTube description for the YouTube version of the podcast. If you want to go donate, you can go over to gofundme.com/Brian Finck Cancer Battle. To make sure that's clear, it's Brian, Brian, Finck, Finck, Cancer Battle. So gofundme.com/Brian Finck Cancer Battle. Please feel free to share, and so that we can get as much support for him as we can. So, but without further ado, I want you to hear his episode. I want you to hear his story. So enjoy the episode and then get out there and support Brian. Thanks. Welcome to Paul Lawson Chats, a podcast for helpers. In each episode, we'll hear stories from folks from various companies and organizations who are making a real difference by bringing positive change and infusing radical good into their workplaces, communities, and world. All right. Hey, all. It's Paul. Today, I am joined on a very special episode, Focus on the Field. This is what I'm deciding to call them, because there are folks out on our job sites that are doing incredible advocacy work that really are showing what I believe the future of our industry can look like. And today I wanted to highlight one of these folks. His name is Brian Finck, General Foreman for Mid-City Electric. He is a great friend of mine, an incredible leader with a hell of a story. And I wanted to give him some space to be able to tell his story today and talk about how his story has impacted how he leads on job sites. So, Brian, thank you for being on today.
Absolutely, Paul.
How are you?
I'm great. Sitting outside here in my favorite place, just listening to the birds and Paul.
Yeah. You're home. This is lovely. This is the first episode I've shot where we're getting some trees in the background.
Right.
I think your dog's running around too. This is
somewhere.
I love this. This is just peaceful.
This is my go-to place to relax and clear my mind after a hard day's worth of work.
Yeah, busy day for sure. Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about what job site are you at right now? What does that look like?
So right now I'm at the new Vantage Data Center. They're building 3 buildings there right now with a possibility of 4. So it's one of those mega sites, which means mega stress and mega headaches.
all that stuff. Yeah. How many people are out there right now?
For me, I have around 40. I should be around 60, but I got 40, which with times right now with the labor market, it's just hard to get folks. So we're trying.
Yeah.
The stress though, with not having what you need for the manpower for anybody, in the construction side of stuff.
Yeah. Right. So it's, to me, you have so much experience with a variety of job sites. To me, you really have seen the cross section of construction, you've done work on data center job sites. You've done a ton of that work. So currently at Vantage, but I know you also were at Project Mustang, which is another giant data center, holder project here in Columbus. Also, you just did some work over at Upper Arlington Community Center, and which tell me a little bit about what that work looked like.
So that was Upper Arlington is an awesome community center up there for that city, and went up there to help out Jeff. Same thing, he needed some help, and I was just finished up with the project. So I was like, here we go. We'll go help out, my friend, my coworker, Jeff. So went up there, and, you walk into it, you're like, man, I don't know how Jeff has done this. You just feel the stress in the air. So you kind of feel for him. So you just want to buckle down and try to do whatever you can to help the guy out, just take the bull by the horns and do your thing that he asked you to do. So
yeah,
I was
Jeff being a fellow foreman, right?
Yes, he is. Put me up in the main gym, working on lighting up there, which it's been a headache because the floor guy was in and out, and we had to start, stop. So it was a huge headache, and he just wanted to get it crossed off the list. So he gave me a crew of guys and just pretty much let me do my thing, which is what I do best.
This is what you do. What you do, man.
We checked in with each other once or twice a day, and that was about it.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Well, so, I went out to that site a couple times just to check in on your guys and check in on you. And man, just to me, that was one of the things that to kind of on-ramp into some questions and talk about your story and your background. The last couple years, and I know your story now, like I know it, but I want other people to know your story because I think your story is so powerful and so incredible. And I saw impact on your crew. Like what was happening in your life was also impacting your crew and how you were leading them and how you were exemplifying to them what leadership in the field looks like. It was challenging the status quo of what foreman leadership was typically looked like. And to me, part of what makes your story so powerful, and I'm going to get to your story because I want to highlight it, is that part of your story was the old school way of leading, but then you've grown and learned and all of this stuff, and it has impacted every single corner of your life.
For sure. I used to be the foreman that would take my hard hat, throw it across the room if somebody was taking an extra minute on break, or they should have had something done 15 minutes earlier. And that was just one. I mean, I said something to one of my good friends. We worked at the same place together at the time, and it was 3:00 and he was packing stuff up for the day. And I lost everything on him. Like, what are you doing? We still got 15 minutes of work left. And, looking back on that today is like, man, that wasn't the right way to go about that whole conversation with him. So I still feel bad about that to this day. I mean, I've apologized to him many times over the years, but it's still in my head that
there's a whole new, there's when you started working on yourself, you kind of entered into a new world of how you lead and how you interact with others, and it's a much more personal place now versus just got to get work done versus like, no, how do we take care of other people just like you have taken care of yourself,
Right.
So I want to, all right, so let me dive in. So how long have you been in the industry, and then what made you like join it?
So I've been an electrician for 25 years now. 25 years this month, actually. So, and the way I started, I was sitting at home doing nothing. And my brother, who was an electrician, called me up and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing, just sitting here playing video games." He said, "Well, tomorrow I'm picking you up for work." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yep, I'm picking you up for work. You're going to come be an electrician." I was like, "Okay." I mean, at least it's a paycheck coming in, not video games. So he picked me up that next morning and took me under his wing a little bit to, try to teach me the best he could, which was awesome for my middle brother to teach his older brother a lesson because we was always the ones teaching him a lesson growing up. But
He's one taught you this time.
yeah. So he helped me out with that. Like he took me under his wing. We went to his job site that he was running, which was a KB Toys that was up at Polaris, right across from
Wow, a KB Toys.
right. So
that's a
telling my age
throwback.
here.
No, same here, man. Mortal Kombat action figures when I was a kid, I used to get exclusively at KB Toys.
Yes. So
Dude, awesome. That's cool. So that was your first job site then that you worked on?
that was my first job site ever, was that
That's cool.
KB Toys at Polaris. So
Wow.
he helped me out so much up there, and like things that I remember doing on that project that I see some of the younger kids that come to my projects do, and I'm like, I was the same way. I did the same thing, like pulling my MC cable too tight for my light fixtures. Like I didn't know how it was supposed to go, so I made it as tight as I possibly could. I didn't know you're supposed to have a big old loop on your light and make it nice and neat up there. So
yeah,
my brother walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Wiring lights up like you told me to do." And he's like, "That's not how we wire lights." So he showed me how to wire lights. And so to this day, when I have a youngster come on the project or something, I'm like, I want to teach them, like, this is how you wire lights.
Yeah. I love that.
That's how I started, at least. So that was my first job. And
that's really cool.
Remember, like, it was yesterday. It was 25 years ago.
So how many job sites have you been on now since then? If that was first one, how many have you been on then since then?
Oh, geez.
If you were to guesstimate.
I couldn't even count. I could tell you probably, man, I don't know, probably 60, 70. And it's a lot. I can tell you the big projects that me personally that I have done, but
well, and some of those sites that you've been on are so many, like it's multiple years, and like,
yeah, it's like you're someplace for 5 years.
Either way, you've been in the industry for a long time, and you've seen a lot, and you've been around a lot, and you've been on. From the time that I've known you, I joined Mid City in 2019, so I'm sure I talked to you some in those first couple years when I was just sitting up front answering phones.
Absolutely.
But when really your and my friendship really kicked off to when you started diving into this advocacy work, both for yourself and for the people around you. And so you were one of the first foremen to start reaching out to me to say, hey, will you come out to my job site and talk to my guys? Like that just meant to me, you were one of the first evidences of this can work. Like this actually can work. We can go against the grain on what's typical in our industry and do something about taking care of our guys. You really showed me that this is possible. So I'm just excited now. Hey, you're getting your voice out there, and I think that's so cool. So all right, so you are like a veteran in the industry. You've been in it for a while. But what I want to get into is that like your story has changed and your life has changed pretty drastically in the last few years. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think part of your story and what makes it so potent and really amazing is that like you went from being the regular foreman in construction, the throwing your hard hat across and kind of looking for a fight, to it all kind of changed a few years ago. So talk to me about what did Brian, both as dad and a husband and as a foreman leader in the construction industry, what did it look like for like a few years ago versus what does it look like today?
So when I was at Project Mustang, I had quite a few foremen underneath me. I probably had 6 to 7. So that you're talking at least 50 some guys as a general foreman. And so throughout the day, you don't have all the time in the world to touch base with everybody all day, because you got meetings to go to for that meeting, for the other meeting, and your phone never stops. So, but these foremen, I was just, it was this is how it is. This is how we're going to do this stuff. You don't really pay attention much to their demeanor. One morning, coming to work, and the whole job site's like, "Did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No, what happened?" They're like, "Blake, he, sorry, Paul,
you're good. You're all right.
Yeah, they said that he's not with us anymore. And, he died by suicide. And I was like, my whole life basically changed at that moment when like the GoFundMe page and stuff was just like, man, I was just talking to this guy yesterday.
It was somebody in your circle that was there the day before, and then you came into work and he was not there. and that shook you.
Yes,
It rattled you.
To the core. That was rough.
Yeah, absolutely. That was March 22nd of 2022. Is that, and I remember that day. So tell me about, like, so Brian before that day and then Brian after that day. Like, at what point you hit some big turning points? And it sounded like that was one of the turning points, was that day when you realized, like, man, life is fragile, and folks are, there's a lot of folks out there that aren't doing okay, and they're probably hiding it.
Right, for sure.
So,
because in our field, we're taught to hide it. We're taught to hide that, like that's, I'm a big bad construction worker, and I have no feelings, and I'm not going to show any feelings on the job site. I was that person. You would not have known anything about my personal life if you worked for me, because there's no need for you to know that. You're just here to get a job done and work. That was me.
Yeah.
And then, with Blake, after that happened, I started getting counseling. So I needed that in my life. Just like I said, it hit me to the core.
Yeah.
So I reached out to some counselors. Finally found one that we hit it off, and I could sit down and talk about anything to this person. And for the first year or so, I was going every other week, just talking, just trying to work through issues. And so we talked through all sorts of stuff, and, started reflecting on my life and, my family, and what am I doing to make sure that I am there for my family, as well as helping others.
Yeah.
So I used to be the typical construction worker, Paul. Like Fridays after work, I'd go out, go to the bar. I'd sit there till 9, 10 o'clock at night, go home, and then my wife would be in bed, my boy would be in bed, the dog would be in bed. So you just come home and lay down on the couch and go to sleep. And that was not the way to do it at all. So that was one of the things that my counselor and I worked on, was the typical construction worker stuff of just having beers after work and not giving two hoots about what other people think about you, because it's, I worked hard today, I deserve a beer,
Right. It was like transactional. It was like, hey, I put in the work for this, I've earned this,
Right, exactly. And not thinking of the consequences that your actions are doing to others. Like, so my wife coming to me is like, you have two choices. So I was like, that's never good when you just have two choices.
Starting out that conversation there.
Right. So it was either, you can stop your drinking and going out and not coming home till wee hours of the morning or whatever on the weekends, or you can continue doing that, but I won't be here, your son won't be here, and your dog won't be here. So to me, cold beer at the end of a work day, because I deserve it, didn't mean much to me when it come to my family and, what I could possibly lose. So that was a huge turning point for me, is when she came to me. Like I said, I'd already been going through counseling, talking about it, which we've been working on that stuff. And, it's just out of the blue sky, here she come with that. So that was, I picked up that I stopped drinking, haven't had a drink. And I don't know, it's like been 520 some days or something now.
Incredible. So strong. And you keep an app on you, I think, that tells you the actual date, and how many days, right?
Let's see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, let's see.
It's called sober. It's called I Am Sober. So it's 519
days. Awesome.
And then you put in how much you was spending, and that's how much money I've saved by not drinking.
Wow, almost $16,000. Look at that. Oh, my gosh.
So that, and don't forget your calories. That's how
Yeah.
many calories I've saved.
Yeah, and
So,
I
I
said
mean,
no. And you got healthier. I mean, like it's so your life radically changed. You
yes.
turned it around. So talk to me about how so you started going to therapy. And just started taking the lid off. Of all of this stuff
Everything.
in life. So tell me about how did that begin to start challenging the typical stereotype of leadership in construction, and how did that start to get in there and challenge the way that you were leading and how you interacted with the rest of the industry?
So with me, like the folks that I would go have those Friday night beers with, I had to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm stepping away from that part of my life. And then, as far as their reaction, they're like, oh, they call you this and that and this. And you're like, well, that may be the case, but I feel a lot better right now. So I literally lost my whole, what you thought was your whole group of friends, gone. You know what I mean? And I was talking to my counselor about that. And he was like, do you ever think that your friends that you called friends that you drank with were really just there as, you're buying or picking a check up? And so little things like that kind of really opened my eyes up to, this is going to be tougher than I thought it's going to be, to try to get the word out to folks about, trying to turn stuff around and just go against the grain a little bit, I guess, when it comes to the stigma of just, being hardcore and doing what you think you deserve all the time. So,
Yeah,
um,
sure.
for me, I just started opening up to people. I just started opening up. I literally, like my crews, I would talk to them. First of all, I would call you. Usually every time I started a new project, I would call Paul out. Like, Paul, you want to come out and talk to this group of guys? And we could do lunch, we could do breakfast or whatever. And every time I'd ask that, you'd always say yes, and look at
I'm
my
there.
calendar, and we'd get it set up. And here comes Paul with, breakfast sandwiches or pizza or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
and come out and talk to the guys. So that to me was a huge to have you come out and do that, because I remember one of our projects that I called you out to, there was a young person that was having some difficulty
Yeah.
with coming to work.
Yep.
They came to work all the time. They was fine. I mean, like you'd call an A student in school, and then that A student started missing work, showing up late to work, and you know we have to do certain things as far as tracking all that stuff. And the first one was you don't do a verbal written warning. So I took this person and had my witness with me, and I had my computer set up. I just had it facing just enough so that this person could see my computer screen. And so I started talking to him and trying to figure out, what's going on. Like, if the old me would have just been like, here, sign this here so I can send it into
Yeah.
HR and
Checkbox done.
yeah, go on
Yeah.
about your day and
Right.
don't let this happen again, because the next time's a written warning. Then after that, it's termination. So,
Yeah. Right.
but I went a different route on this one. And that was probably the first time that I actually could see the new me coming out a little bit, to wanting to help somebody
Yeah.
instead of going by
Yeah.
the normal.
The
So
usual, just kind of kicking to the curb. Hey, if
yeah,
he's slacking, then
he's
we got a
slacking.
job. We got a job to do.
Yep. And if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. You just, sign your last paper and I'll
Peace.
find somebody else to do it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So I kind of took this person and was like, didn't say anything about the write up yet, but they could see my screen. So I said, what is going on? I said, you was always on time. You always worked all these hours with me. We was working 15, 16-hour days, and he was there with me the whole time. And I said, what is going on? And he explained to me, he said, my grandma kicked me out of my house. I said, oh, well, that's really not good at all. He goes, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good. He's like, I'm up all night. Like maybe fall asleep at 5 o'clock and get maybe an hour's worth of sleep before I have to get up, get ready for work. And
And
he
getting
said,
up and getting ready for work. What
yeah,
time
he
do you have
says
to
I
be on
can't get
site?
up. We was starting at 7
So if
at
he's
that
getting to bed
time.
at 5, he's getting an hour and a half of sleep at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hour and a half of sleep just wasn't working for, him getting to work on time and stuff. So
Right.
I was like, this guy, he's down. He needs someone to talk to. So that's when I just reached out to you because you hadn't been out to this project yet, Paul. And I was like, so I think you came out that very same week, if I can remember right. And we just all sat down and just talked. And you introduced yourself, and you talked about all sorts of good stuff. And then you said, I'm just going to be here hanging around for a little bit. And, if anybody wants to talk or something, just, you can talk to me. And
Do the
because he
same.
did come to you
Yeah.
and talk to you. So without us even saying anything, I'm like, that it really works. I was like, yeah, actually, if you care about somebody, you can show a little bit of that to them. And they won't look like, oh, this guy, he's not a big bad construction worker now. He's all emotional or something now. So, but it proved to me that I could do that and not have that put on me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do you feel like too, I mean, with the stigma of doing something like that, like where you went and you didn't go hard on the kid, because he's in a situation,
right, for
and
sure.
it's one thing to be concerned and be like, listen, I want to make sure that you're safe and everybody on this job site is safe too. And I think the old mindset is that that's why we would go hard on people, because like, hey, we got to be safe. We got to, and yes, we do want to be safe on a job site. Absolutely,
Right.
for sure. But there's a new kind of approach to some of these situations. And what you saw, how that played out that first time, was that like, wait, maybe we can look for these opportunities where we can take care of folks. We can both talk about our concerns. Hey, like there's an attendance issue here, and we do sign that when we get hired, but like we care about you as a person, and we want to know like, hey, is there something that we can do to help out? Is there like what's going on? And
dig
so
deeper.
yeah, exactly. And so to me, it's like the fact that you ran into that situation and so organically. So tell me about now, like that was the first time, but now you have also really gotten to a point to where you've opened up too. Like back then, me coming out and doing that conversation, which I still do,
Right.
but what I've started seeing too is that you guys do some of that as well, where you're just opening up and telling your story. So tell me what that's like now.
So yeah, the first time I did that, remember it to this day. It was sitting in a job trailer, and the guys were just sitting in there, and they were, just talking, younger guys just talking about, their life and, girl problems, or I was out drinking and, I hit a stop sign or something. And so I just, sit in my office, just kind of listen a little bit. And then I was like, I'm gonna go out here and talk to these kids, just to tell them my story, tell them where I was and where I am to this day. So,
Yeah.
I walked out there, just pulled up a chair, and just, of course, they're like, oh, the boss is out here now. So they like clamored quiet, but I'm like, there's no sense of being quiet. Yeah. I was like, there's no sense of being quiet, guys. I was like, I've been there. And, I just kind of opened up with them about my life, where I had, my drinking was, causing a lot of issues for my home life and affecting my work as well, because, you come in on a Saturday, you're hungover, you don't feel good. And that's why I was telling them, like, there's other opportunities. And that kind of really, their eyes got like real big. They're like, what? I was like, yeah. So I was like, I explained it, talked to them about everything. I told them, hey, I reached out and got counseling. I did what I needed to do. And I feel like a completely different person now that I can sit down and talk to somebody and just talk about anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to go talk to a shrink or something like that. I'm like, it's not like that. It's literally just talking to what I would call a friend who listens to you, listens to your stories, and helps guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I actually had folks that ask for our EAP card
Yeah.
for Mid City.
Right.
They'd ask for those, and I would always have a stack of them, and I'd always pass them out to them. And if I ever had anything in the trailer, like a meeting where there might be some other folks in, I'd pass those out too, just to kind of spread the word to try to help somebody out, because I don't need to know your whole story. If you don't want to tell your story yet, if you don't feel like you're ready to tell your story, just here's a card with some information to call somebody who will listen to you.
That's, man, it's amazing the impact, because I've had those conversations with your crew, like with your apprentices, and they are learning a totally different way of what leadership can look like in the industry, like on the field, by modeling vulnerability. That's what you did. You modeled vulnerability to say, like, hey, y'all, it's okay to not be okay. And it's also okay to go get help, and normalized that. Like, I don't want to skate past that's like so on the nose of what we're trying to do with the mission of everything that we're trying to do with suicide prevention and mental health and well-being in the industry is doing exactly what you have been doing out in the field, which is to just normalize this thing, to say it's okay to go get help. It's a strong thing to do, to go and become the healthiest version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, I even like helping teach classes. Like at the shop for our leadership program, I pass out, the EAP cards to all the kids that come in there for their, brand new foreman coming out, just to try to instill to them that, it's all right to talk about this stuff. And the last class we had was on a Saturday. I just came in just to, give a hand on that class. And, just when it got to the mental health part of that class, that was all me. I mean, I told them almost all my story, but we only had so much time for that class, so I couldn't be up there telling everything. But I just tried to enforce to those young foremen coming up that it's all right to talk to your crew about mental health, and it's fine. I'm still here. I talked to my crew. I didn't burn to ashes or nothing like that. I'm still here.
Yeah, right.
So
that's it though. I mean, like, you're starting to get that message out there to all the different tiers of, like, I remember you getting out there and talking to apprentices, but now getting out there and talking to your fellow foremen, your other foremen, the foremen who are coming up, and you're training them, and you're not alone in that either, but basically just, again, normalizing that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to get help. It is the right thing to do to encourage help-seeking behavior and help-giving behavior. And it's changing the game, man. It's changing the game. So to me, like, and part of your story too, man, it came from a personal place. Like, your wife gave you that ultimatum, like, hey, it has to change. And you did it. You changed it. So tell me, like, how's that impacted your family?
Oh, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, it goes, my wife is like a totally different person now, the way she interacts with me, even that.
Probably it built trust.
Well, that did, because trust me, going out drinking and not coming home till midnight, 1 a.m, that does not build trust.
Yeah. Not doing it. Right.
Yeah. That's the total opposite, so actually there's one night just sitting on the couch, just watching TV, and it was a Saturday night. I'm like, do you realize, like, a year and a half ago, I would have been out the bar just drunker than a skunk right now, and not caring when I got home or how I got home, but that was me.
Isn't it like that? Wasn't that moment of, like, that aha, like, oh my gosh,
I was like
that. Whoa,
because I wasn't even thinking about it. It was a Saturday night. I wasn't even thinking it was a Saturday night, and then it just dawned on me, hey, it's a Saturday night. It's 9:00 at night, and I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie with the family instead of out at the bar. And that means the world to me, to be able to spend time with my family. And it opened my eyes to a lot. And I'm so glad that my wife gave me an ultimatum to start with, but I chose the path I did.
There's so many little forks in the road there. I mean, with everything that you experienced, when you lost Blake, and then having that kind of moment of, like, man, maybe I need to, go talk to somebody, and you did it. and then having that moment with your family where there was a breaking point and you were given this option and you're like, I'm going to go and try this out, and you did it. And like now it is impacting the people around you and showing the next generation a whole new way of living that was totally converse from what the industry used to tell you, and how the expectation of like, well, this is just what it looks like to lead in the industry. You drink a lot, you take your stress and you bottle it up, and then you go process with bottles, right? Bottles.
That's it.
Everywhere.
Process
right?
with bottles and let them hit the trash can. Clink, clink.
Yeah, that's it. But
so that was it. That's how you process your stress.
Incredible. Thank you for telling your story.
Oh,
thank you. I mean, welcome. Me again. I'll reiterate this. It's to me. It's a proof is right there. This works. It can work. It's like, and it all starts with, I think, like getting out there and modeling vulnerability. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a strong thing to do.
Right. And
well, I think that I mean, I know that like we've talked about this before too. When you changed your life around, when you turned your life around and you made those steps for yourself and you took those steps for yourself, you lost a friend group that were defined by that lifestyle. And they, I'm sure, have their own stuff and their own stories and their own, and so I don't want to just knock them, but at the same time, you intentionally for yourself separated from them. And now you've told me this before too, where you see that like if you took that purpose, if the alcoholism and all that used to be it was purpose, it was your friend group, it was a hobby, it was the thing that you felt connected to other people with, and you take that out, you were then left with this thing that's like, oh man, what am I going to fill that with? And you've said before too, we've talked about this, where advocacy and well-being and all of that really kind of came in and took that spot, like has really like, it's given you purpose beyond a paycheck in this industry.
Very true. That was, I remember we first had lunch together. We was talking about this. I was like, I just need to get more involved in, I think I even talked to you about speaking, doing public speaking places and just trying to get the word out there. So that's, to me, has done a lot as far as going to all of our groups that we have and our classes that we have, and like the things that you and I have done together, like the 10 TV stuff, just stuff like that. It just feels natural. Like I wish I would have seen it years before I did.
Well, and I think that's going to lead into my next question too, because I think like for me, like you found, people can find purpose beyond a paycheck and at any point in their career. Like it can be later in your career, early in your career, but like encouraging more and more folks in our industry to dive in that, hey, this is a big table and you have a seat if you want it. And it's a place where you're going to be around other folks who are looking to model vulnerability and change the industry and make this world a little better place, make this industry the healthiest version of itself that it can be. So what would you tell other foremen and tradesmen in the industry? How would you go about like inviting them into this? What would you be telling them about what the future of this industry can look like?
So when I had my class there a few Saturdays ago, I kind of got into this a little bit with those young foremen that were coming in to learn to be a foreman. And it was, don't be afraid to be yourself, show that you have feelings, show that you care about your crew, just anything to try to get that out there, that you're not alone, that there's people to talk to. So if you can get all the foremen that run these projects, big or small, to just take the baby steps to, when they start a job up, go through and pass out the EAP cards and, pass out the 98 stickers and just try to get the word out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you do. It's like, it's intrinsic to you now. It's just like now you're at a job site. You're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is just what we do. This is normal. It's okay. It's okay to do this. And it's the right thing to do. And it's saving lives. So that's incredible. So tell me, you've been in the industry now for how many years?
25.
25.
I'm old.
You're not old. You're not. You've been in the industry though for 25 years, and you've seen, the sort of some of the pivots that have happened over the last few years. We're talking about this right now. The fact that you're sitting here on a podcast talking about this topic in this industry tells me this is kind of a new frontier in our industry. So from your end, on your angle, you're a leader on job sites. You understand the flow of this thing, all of the stress and the overtime and the just mountains of effort that it takes to get these buildings up. Tell me about, from your angle, what does the future of this industry look like if we keep talking about this and keep going as far as we can?
And the sky's the limit, really, Paul. I mean, if you get it out there and you just have people that can talk to people the way that people should be talked to, and let people know that there's someone else that can talk to, I can come talk to whoever I want to talk to about my issue or my life. And hopefully by me showing that example on a job site, even on a mega site, I still do the same thing. I still open up to my crews and still talk to them about mental health, and hopefully that those youngsters will take it, will build on what I tell them and to make it even bigger. And then they'll tell somebody, and the next person just keeps getting bigger and bigger till finally that there's no question, because it's just the norm. We talk about mental health. That's what we do.
Well, for folks listening to, Mid-City Electric is a union contractor. So I use a lot of examples when talking about, my experience and time over at Mid-City. A lot of the stories come at it from the context of it being union, But I do think, too, it's worth asking the question for any company in this industry about how are you getting people introduced to these ideas and concepts, And I think that there's a multi-pronged approach of, the second somebody gets onboarded to come out onto a job site, letting them know what your program looks like and what resources are out there. Regularly getting out there and making job site visits and talking to the guys and being available for the foreman, who maybe the foreman are your eyes and ears, kind of like what Brian has done, what people, and other foremen like Brian that have said, hey, I got a guy who's struggling. I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. I need somebody to come out here and talk to this guy. The fact that even happens right now is just mind blowing. But that happens a lot now. And that should be what happens is how can we take care of this guy that's struggling, And so to me, I always want to be asking the question, and I always usually wrap up these episodes with a look to the future about what does this look like? What can this look like in the future? 5 to 10 years from now, what does construction look like? And how is it different? And the answer that I heard from you is no, this is just going to be part of what we do. We take care of people in a new way.
Absolutely. You take care of people and, listen to people, because nowadays people just don't listen to people. They're too busy. They don't have time. Nobody wants to listen to anybody. So if you just take the time, step back, the job's still going to get done no matter what.
Yeah. Right.
But that person may not be there the next day. So take that 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10, whatever it is, to talk with that person, or just let them talk to you. Just listen. Because sometimes that's all someone needs, is someone to listen to them talk. You don't have to say a word. Just listen to them.
In a world that doesn't really, we're so distracted by this.
Yes.
And we always have something happening. So when we do stop and listen to somebody, it's I keep going back to the word potent. I think it is. I
agree with you.
Because those interactions are so rare and so far between that when we implement that type of skill set onto a job site where people know how to listen and communicate, it just helps people open up. It builds trust instantly.
Yes.
It feels like a cheat code. It feels like it shouldn't be this easy to build trust with somebody, but all you got to do is be able to communicate and listen to somebody.
That's it. I walk the building, and I will stop and talk to my people, just like, how you doing? How you feeling? Everything good? Is there anything that can be done differently? Do you need something? What do you need? Are you good? And I just let them talk.
Yeah.
Take mental notes, and that to them, they're like, oh, the general foreman came and talked to me today and asked me how I was doing. To them, that means a lot to some people. Some
Yeah.
people are like, I wish he'd just leave me alone. But
you run into that. You run into that too, and that's okay. That's all right. Leaving the door cracked for those folks that are just like, I need a second. That's fine. But I hear so many times, folks, when you just give them a second to like just open up and share about what's going on and like be seen as a human being.
Yes. Not a number.
Like, not a number, not cattle. I think it's so, especially on those huge job sites where it's easy to get lost in the mix and feel like you're just a number, that to me, again, it makes that like those kind of skills around listening and communication and empathy and makes it, your leadership is like a high octane if you're able to do that and figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And people love it to be heard.
I love that. Well, to me, that's the future of the industry, is being able to normalize that and be able to convince other foremen and folks in leadership that that's the right way of leading and that's what this should look like. And to me, Mid-City is really, they are stepping out forward in front saying, hey, this is something we want to do. And I see it all over the place. You representing that, you leading the way on that. And so dude, thank you so much for sharing today. Thank you so much for being on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, man. So just keep on keeping on. You are a general foreman, but also you are an advocate.
Yes.
You are.
Very much so.
And your impact, it's so fresh. It's like you're 3 years in, and the folks that I've seen that have been impacted by your story and your vulnerability, those folks are going to then also change the industry as well because they saw something different in you. And I think that is so powerful. So thank you, buddy. The sun is setting over there, I see.
Yep, the sun is starting to go down.
Let's wrap this thing up. You get back to spending some time with your family. Thanks for sharing today. And I'm going to be talking to you here real soon because I'm going to be coming and visiting your job site here in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Can't wait, Paul.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So for all of you guys listening, thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Paul Lawson Chats. Check out Mid-City Electric online at midcityelectric.com. Columbus electrical contractor doing incredible work in the well-being space. Be sure to check them out. All right. And we will catch you on the next episode of Paul Lawson Chats. See ya.